Ginigay, which is hello in the local Gumbaynggirr language. I'm here to talk about belonging in community. Before I start, I want to share an extract from a piece I wrote for the Don't Diss My Ability campaign last year, because it seems to have struck a chord with a lot of people, and it gives you a bit of a heads up about where I'm coming from in regards to disability. The piece was called Normal is Over, which might give you another clue as to where I'm coming from around disability. Be visible, be involved and be connected. Insist on what you need to live your best life and refuse to do or be a lesser version of you. Do what you love and what you are good at. Take risks and experiment. Do what interests you, not what someone else thinks is right for you. Do it with people you like, who help you grow and have fun and who care about you. Choose your own labels. Find and use examples of the life you want. Find and use role models. Talk about disability positively and be sure you're emphasising your gifts and strengths more than your limits, just like people without disability do. Have a vision. Work out what you need to get that life and don't stop until you get it. Be patient, but also be unstoppable. Normal is so over. So you might be starting to guess that I'm one of those people that believe people with disability belong everywhere and should experience, if they choose to, ordinary things in ordinary places, like friends, education, sport, employment, love, sex, travel, their own home, their own family, risks, mistakes, scandals. Don't you think people with disability are really underrepresented in the scandal mistakes? Lift your game, people. Highs and lows, choices and voices, especially voices about things that impact their own lives. So I'm also one of those people that uses a vision to direct my daughter's life. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we're on, the Gumbaynggirr people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. I'd like to acknowledge some of the lessons we can learn from Aboriginal people who know a thing or two about walking the path of fighting for your basic human rights. Lessons like resilience, maintaining culture and belonging. I really believe in community, and I believe everyone has the right to belong in a community that is respectful and safe and supportive. And I've noticed that it's kind of tough to maintain your culture when you're fighting for your most basic needs. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that too. So first, a little bit about us. We're a family, and one of our family has some disability labels, specifically cerebral palsy and epilepsy. There's my children. My family are here. You would have tripped over them quite a bit the last few days. So neither of those labels my daughter has are relevant to gardening, you might notice. So this having a disability label gambit can be quite a wild ride. Has everyone noticed that? There's some stuff in it, isn't there? You might have been taught, like it's actually really hard sometimes, and you might have been taught that it's really hard because disability is hard and tragic and it's a pity and all of those kind of things. But it's actually hard for another reason, and to illustrate that I just need 4 volunteers who can count to 34 to come up here, please. Don't overthink it. Come on, 34. Just 4 people. Oh, that's good. That's good, actually. I like this. Ramp is good. So what we're going to do is apologies to anyone who's seen this before, but I think it's a really good reminder. What we're going to do is this here is the #1 ranked OECD country. So OECD is the oil-rich countries in the world. So Australia is one of those. Obviously, we're a developed country. We've got a high standard of living. So here is the ranked #1, and at the bottom of the ramp is ranked number 34. So that's the lowest rank. So I'd like you to stand on that spectrum where you think Australia ranks in terms of quality of life. So quality of life, start moving, don't overthink it. Quality of life is things like education, healthcare, sustainability. I can't think of, there's about 11 factors that they use. Okay, so quality of life. Oh, Hank's waving further down. Okay, come to position #1. Australia is ranked #1 in terms of quality of life over a number of years, the last few years, I think 2013, 14 and 15. we're ranked #1. So in the world stage, we're doing some things really, really well. Now I'd like you to stand on that same spectrum from highest to lowest when you separate out the demographic of people who live with disability. So this has only been done in the last few years. In fact, it's only been in the last few years that there's been a global estimate of how many people do live with disability, and it is 1 billion. Okay, so move right to number 34, because that's where we rank. So that, thank you to our 4 volunteers, that difference from 1 to 34 is why this is so hard sometimes. So it's not your imagination, there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing wrong with your family member, there's something wrong with the world. So we'll talk about changing that as well. So obviously the best way to change the world is to lead by example. So there's one life that you have to be that example and to be part of that change. But despite how hard it is in my family, I can't think of a way to live with ourselves that isn't the truth. And the truth is that disability is a natural part of our diversity. And so we kind of work from there. I hesitate to say this, but we actually have a super cool life. We live in Bellingen for the locals, so you know, just a very beautiful small town, not very far away. We have things in our life that really suck too, but overall we're living a really, really good life. And we live in a community where we know and love lots of people, and where lots of people know and love us. It's a small community. We've got access to seriously good food, world-class music and arts, great beaches, rivers and wild spaces, lots of like-minded people, lots of things that we like to do and lots of opportunities. We belong there and it feels really amazing, and I've never lived anywhere and had this situation in my life before. So how did this happen? So I guess you'd call that belonging. How did it happen? We only moved to this particular town 5 years ago, so a lot's happened in 5 years. And we started with a few connections that we had before we moved there, but we made lots and lots more by this simple trick. We did things. This might sound like a simple idea. We did lots of things actually. So we got involved in things and we met people, and then that led to getting involved in other things and we met more people, and so on. And now we know hundreds of people and hundreds of people know us. So we've got a big circle. So my first hot tip is to value your family culture and grow from there. So find people in places that nurture the culture of your family. Like, what are you about as a family or an individual? Our first links in the community were through kids' things, which is great, which is a natural way to meet lots of people. So we did preschool and we met lots of people through that. We moved to a playgroup that we felt we matched up with the sort of ethos of that playgroup. We had the opportunity when my daughter was going to preschool to come to drive to Coffs, which is a half-hour drive each way, and go to some disability-specific options, or to go to early intervention groups. And as much as I love the early intervention that we have in Coffs, they're really progressive. We chose to go to a preschool in our community, and through that decision we met people from our community, and those links have continued to spread and grow. So we also are really into local food and environmental sustainability, so I became involved in a community garden, and that led to lots more things, and so on. So we also homeschool because we value our family culture. So my second hot tip is to be really visible in your community. And as well as making contributions, we go to community stuff all the time. I'm also very visible on Facebook. I know there's a few people in the audience know that. We do it because it's fun and it's educational and whatever other purposes those activities serve, but we also kind of have this calculated move to keep this little girl on everyone's radar, so that her connections are constantly being renewed and growing, and she's meeting more and more people, and she's known as herself as part of the community. And it works. Lots of people know a lot about her. A lot of people make the effort to communicate with her, and her communication isn't, you know, what you'd call easy. a lot of people take the risk and it pays off for them. And so I see that now, that I don't even have to be involved in her having communications with members of our community, that she's the independent communicator now. So being visible, being involved and being connected works. Doing stuff, ordinary stuff, with people you like works. But also being known for stuff that people value, which a lot of talks this last few days have talked about, that valued roles idea. So how do you find out what to involve someone with who some people might describe as non-verbal? So Marla talks with her voice a lot, which can be very unclear. She uses sign language. She uses a lot of drama, like she'll act something out and describe something more. And she does have a talking computer, which she mainly uses to insult therapists that visit our home with her favourite phrase, big bottom. For some reason they don't like it. So how do you do that? So if you asked Marla what her favourite thing is, she'd probably say babies. And here's her with her brand new cousin last year. She's always liked babies, and we first noticed it when her brother was born, when she was 2. She really liked him, like straight off the bat, she really liked him. She was very attuned to him, and sometimes she told us stuff that he needed, that she interpreted his body language and his cries, and she was right, and we were like, So she was interpreting for a newborn using sign language to tell us what he needed. And 6 years on, she still likes seeing babies, she likes playing with them, she's really alert to their safety issues and their needs, and she'll tell grown-ups stuff. She likes pretending to be a baby in games, and she wants to someday have some babies herself, which she's made very clear. So this kind of feels like a clue, doesn't it? She's also reasonably fearless and totally comfortable and trusting in trying new things. And I had my doubts about this at Myrna Park, for the record. That's my brother there, egging her on. She also is socially really at ease. So she's totally comfortable moving about the community, totally comfortable meeting new people. This is also an example of the sort of stuff we go to, like the agricultural show is on our calendar. It's one of the things we try and go to every year. I'm not sure why I included this, probably so you could laugh at it. It's sort of an example of an accommodation in action. That's her father, my partner, who's 6'6". I convinced him to squeeze into that roller coaster ride so that she could go on it. And I could take photos. I think that was the real reason I did that. Marla's also really creative. Here's her doing a batik painting in Bali. She's really, really at home in the water. She's been swimming since she was 5 months old, and she has a little bit of flotation support and is really, really independent, loves the water and goes swimming a lot. She's very flexible, literally and figuratively. She is a very adaptable person. So there's lots of clues in that lot about what Marla enjoys and what we can and do build on, and what can mature and grow into more roles and opportunities as she grows up. She's done horse riding, martial arts, dancing, singing, trampolining, drama, which I'll talk about in a sec. She's currently learning the cello and doing yoga and doing heaps of swimming. She's about to start a new martial arts class and a parkour class. Does everyone know what parkour is? Yeah. It's like where those people that run around urban areas bouncing off things and climbing and flipping and things. So it's sort of like a gymnastics in the built environment. So don't ask me how that's going to work. That sounds like I'm going to get a really, really good workout helping with that one. None of the things that we've done have been disability specific, even though there are disability specific versions of a lot of those. They've all been with me supporting her, her father supporting her, a friend, a volunteer, a paid support worker, or no one. So one example was with the dancing group. She was going to, the teacher and I just talked about how she can choose whether she uses her walker, whether she calls me from outside. I was waiting outside, probably playing with Facebook. Or whether she would partner with someone else, or the teacher would help her. And we let her decide and just ask for what she needed in that setting, and I never went in once in the whole term. So that was a great example of how she actually didn't need support to participate in that particular activity. I just want to share one of my related tips, the show up technique, I call it, which is about not warning someone that you're coming, just show up and see what happens. And I think for us it's been a really powerful technique because it makes people, firstly, you assume you belong there, you arrive like you belong there, and you arrive like they, part of their job is to help you work out how to include that person. And it really makes people, it really brings out the best in people from what I've observed. My rule is never ever to ask if we can come to things. A few times I've given people a little bit of a heads up, like I talked to a singing teacher beforehand about my daughter, and because you might think that's a funny thing for someone non-verbal to go to, but she is verbal, and he said, does she sing along to stuff? I'm like, yeah. And anyway, she ended up modifying a few songs because she likes the, you know, the held note at the end of the line of the song, and he said, no, you're right, that, you know, that should be in more songs, that holding the end of each line. So the show-up technique is kind of a, I think of it as a community service to bring out the best in everyone, so you're welcome. Marla, in her drama performance last year, she did drama for 2 years, so I think she did 3 performances. And so that was just a local kids drama group. And yeah, there was so much in this that was amazing. So she went with a support worker. So I got to be the mum who I came to see the performances. And I hadn't seen it 50,000 times. I hadn't been on the floor helping make it happen. I hadn't been involved at all, and that was fantastic. And these beautiful performances, and they had to work around the kids, and the support worker and the teachers had to work out how to incorporate her mobility needs and her communication needs, and they came up with some really, really lovely stuff. So I'd love to make a short film about that process sometime. It's on my list. Here's Marla flying a kite with her brother. So you might have noticed a lot of our photos are from Indonesia, because I think I was just subconsciously trying to point out that we had this really awesome holiday. But yeah, we had this great family adventure last year in Bali, and having, you know, experiencing language and food and art and dodgy transport. And I just, when I was there, one of the things that really struck me is how different disability is viewed in Indonesia, and the times I tried to engage people to talk about it, it's very much a shameful thing, very much. People told me that there isn't hardly anyone in Bali with disabilities. People told me, oh, that guy, he's from another village, he's not here, he's just visiting. When I actually wanted to talk about this man who clearly had cerebral palsy, I was really interested in what life was like for him, and also just how incredibly inaccessible everything is if you use wheels, for example. Marla's also travelled in New Zealand when she was younger. I'm not sure why I put this in, another gratuitous holiday fun shot. So part of belonging in a community is starts with really belonging in your family, and it means doing ordinary stuff. So here's Marla helping make something. And that stuff that's been talked about a little bit before in this conference is just making sure that someone's participating in all aspects of family life. So that includes doing jobs and you know, being part of that sort of side of a family, of which I find that a large part of a family really is doing jobs. And even though it takes longer, and it might be messier, and it might not turn out perfect, it's part of belonging. I love this one. It's actually illustrating several things simultaneously. The first one is, it's another one of us being a family, being in our culture. We're at a protest against the Shenhua coal mine in the Liverpool Plains. Secondly, it's us belonging in our community, where a whole heap of our townsfolk went out to this protest, and we all camped together and we got to know each other better and that kind of thing. Thirdly, my children and another child came up with this solution where the kids were towing my daughter on her bike, and they were running around, and all the adults sort of got to step back, so it was like a child-led innovation. And fourthly, that's me in the background drinking gin and tonic. I like that too. I like that memory. But the main point I wanted to make was, when you belong in community, everyone chips in. And this is a really good example of that it wasn't always us thinking about how this was going to happen, but other people chipped in and made it happen. And that happens for us all the time when we live in community. Here's Marla heading off to her play to play the role of a mermaid last year. So let's symbolically say goodbye to this person living in their community. Let's imagine we've done it all right. They're living the dream like Nathan described yesterday. They've got a strong vision, they're well connected, they've got roles that are valued. It's all good, your work's done. Actually, it's not. It's not enough just to work on one person's life because the world needs changing. Do you remember I mentioned that? You might have noticed it needs changing. So just to talk a little bit about the need to not only stand up for your own rights, but to stand up for what is right. So here's my, this is my current favourite in my list titled Things I Can't Believe I Actually Have to Fix in the World in Order for My Daughter and Thousands of Other People to Lead Ordinary Lives. So this is the situation at the moment in New South Wales with funding. You can get a wheelchair, but you can't get any way to get the wheelchair into the car funded. So that's a bit of a gap for me. So this is what's recommended, is using ramps that's 2 metres long. And this is our town. This is the only flat spot that I actually have room to load and unload in our CBD. And I block the ambulance station while I load and unload. So I love that picture for that reason. So that's one of my pet projects at the moment, is harassing ministers about, you know, the health minister told me you'll be right once the NDIS comes in, and my partner said, tell her to take her front steps away and tell her she can have them back when the NDIS comes in, because that's what we're dealing with. I just told her an 80-kilo piece of equipment had fallen on me 4 times before I stopped using the ramp technique. So I think being involved in changing things while you're experiencing them is really, really important, is using your voice, particularly if you're a cute little kid. That's really moves stuff sometimes. I hope in my lifetime to see lots of things change. Like, I really like to see hooks on toilet doors, part of the building code. That one across there does it. You come in with 8 bags and then you've got to help someone else use the toilet and there's no hooks. For some reason, the other toilets always have hooks and mobility toilets never do. I'd like to see that change before I die. So one of the, yeah, we should chain ourselves to that. Good. So I actually started a social inclusion project in our town to just really have that opportunity to a platform. So it's sort of my alter ego called Bello Belonging, which is about sharing positive stories about disability, because everyone's heard enough of the other stuff. They need to hear some of the balance side about what life can be, possibility, not inspiration porn, but just how people want to do all those ordinary things. And so what I encourage people to do is 3 things. One is to check your head. What are your thoughts and assumptions around disability? So when you really pull it apart, you realise that you've taken on lots of stuff from our culture that isn't. It's not helpful. It's not helpful at all for our communities to grow, and it's certainly not helpful for people to lead quality lives. I also do a lot of talking to people about language, and I made a pact with myself when I see people using, well, it's ableist language, so it's the equivalent of racist or sexist. It's ableist is the term, in case you haven't come across that. But you know, that using disability as an insult to people, or that kind of just negative stereotyping and all that kind of thing. I made a bit of a pact with myself that when I see it, I'd call it out. And wow, that's been an interesting journey.
I'm with you all the way.
Yeah, it's really amazing how people don't even notice they're doing it. That's a good thing in a way, because once you point it out, it's an opportunity for them to not feel threatened, to go, yeah, I never actually thought of that, I didn't even know. So many people don't know that the words that derive from spastic, that they don't even know what they mean and they don't even know where they come from. And as I've sort of moved on through that process, I've really become committed to not just calling it out, but what people call calling it in. So call people in. So don't say you shouldn't be doing this or whatever, but just explain how that stuff makes people feel, how it actually impacts people's lives, so that people can not feel like they've done something wrong, but see the opportunity to change how they're doing stuff. But also I find people I've preached to are also calling it out in the community. And so if we're all doing that, things will change. That slide, good. So I just wanted to mention the need to relax and pace yourself as an activist and a human being, and all the other things you're doing, all the ordinary things. More to myself, I need to mention that more than you. So the last slide, that's Marla's finished batik design that she did, which is watermelon with blueberries in the background, two of her favourite things also. So what does the future hold for this organised, caring, cheeky, practical joker? Will she be an artist? Will she be a masseuse? She's really good already at age 8. Will she be an adventurer, a mother, an architect, an animal carer, a child carer, a carer, a photographer, all of those things maybe? She's good at all of those things. If I had to pick one thing that she's better at than anything else, it's actually connecting with people. And I know a lot of you have met her over the last day, and you would know that that's true. So it's pretty funny that this so-called non-verbal kid is actually really, really good at connecting with people and really, really good at communication. And we first noticed that when she was a baby. I remember I was in a doctor's waiting room and I was doing something else, filling paperwork or something, and this tiny little, you know, chubby, curly thing had communicated to a stranger that she wanted something from the toy box and then to do something else with it or whatever, and it was all good. And I went, oh, that's, you know, amazing how she does that, but that's what she does with people. She manages to communicate really clearly. She's also one of the best huggers in the known universe. She cares about people. She notices what people like and what they need. She makes people feel good, and whenever she chooses, whatever she chooses to do in her grown-up life, when people give her a chance, they're going to love knowing her. She's going to belong. And I'm going to cry. So I'm a planner by profession. That's what I did for 18 years in environmental management. And so there's a few things we've been planning or starting to investigate, or, you know, haven't gotten very far along the track. And one of them is obviously the NDIS, and I honestly can't wait to be self-managing our funds. Are there any service providers here? Who do you work for? I might just not say that, but yeah, we're just being held back basically by service providers that have got a foot in two worlds of the old school. They're still doing, does your child want to come on the bus and do bowling? No. And then they're saying, but we're flexible, but you can't hire your own people. There's just this whole, we're just being really, really held back by the current system, and I can't wait to be free of that. I see there being more people involved doing what I'm doing for my daughter, so having more people doing that and making, you know, supporting connections and involvement and valued roles. I would hope there's going to be less paperwork, a lot less being led on wild goose chases to things that people don't fund or whatever. And just the overall and easy process to meet our vision. We've also got a bit of a plan to get Marla a companion dog, and that's a big job. We've got a bit of a home plan so that we have a home that's fully accessible and that we're debt-free and that can be hers if that's where she chooses to base herself, like just that security. And linked to that, a bit of a plan, social plan, that maybe it will have a really accessible pool and that people will want to hang out at our house. Lots, a bit of an employment plan, just looking at options that small businesses that might link to our home, that she may or may not be interested in. And obviously coupled with a debt-free plan is my plan to live forever. I know probably there's other people in the room who've got that plan. We've also got a plan to work more on circles of support, and we've sort of had a stumbling beginning with that, and I realised I need to kind of separate our circles out into, I'm trying to think of a good word for it, but like an auntie's circle of elders. Sorry, Shari, you're in this, but just people who really get where I'm coming from in case something ever happened to me that could just keep that hold that vision. They don't have to have a direct relationship with my daughter, but have a direct relationship with whoever is supporting her in her life. And then the usual circle, we need more of that kind of support where people are chipping in and coming up with ideas and that kind of thing. So in summary, my hot tip for belonging in a real community, doing extremely cool stuff and loving it, are have a vision, value your family culture, be visible, be involved, be connected, find valued roles, do what you love, try heaps of stuff to find what you love, show up, community service, appreciate how good we have it in this country, because that's a really important thing to acknowledge, that we do have a lot going for where we're not starting from scratch here. But fight for what we don't yet have. Plan for all the big things coming up, like the NDIS, and remember to relax and pace yourself so you can live forever. Okay, got it?